Some NFL careers end with a trophy, others end in a courtroom. Today we're breaking down every major criminal case in modern NFL history. Confirmed crimes, shattered legacies, and the moments that changed lives forever. From Aaron Hernandez's double life, to Michael Vick's shocking fall and comeback, to Henry Ruggs' heartbreaking mistake. This is a side of football most fans never see. No rumors, no drama, just the real stories, the legal outcomes, and the lessons the league can't afford to ignore. Stay with us, because each case reveals a deeper truth about the cost of fame. Aaron Hernandez. At first, Aaron Hernandez looked like the perfect NFL success story. Drafted by the New England Patriots in 2010, he was a tight end with rare athleticism and the ability to turn any play into a touchdown. He formed a deadly duo with Rob Gronkowski, and by 2011, he had already played in a Super Bowl. But off the field, a darker reality was unfolding, one filled with secrets, violence, and tragedy. Rumors of gang connections followed Hernandez even in college at Florida, but they were mostly brushed aside. The Patriots, known for their strict system, believed they could manage him. That belief would end in one of the biggest scandals in league history. In 2013, Hernandez was arrested and charged with the murder of Odin Lloyd, a semi-professional football player and acquaintance. The investigation revealed a shocking trail: surveillance footage, text messages, and even shell casings at his home. Soon, Hernandez was also linked to an earlier double homicide in Boston. The Patriots cut him the same day of his arrest. In 2015, he was convicted of first-degree murder and sentenced to life in prison without parole. Just 2 years later, while appealing the conviction, Hernandez was found dead in his prison cell. His death was ruled a suicide. After his death, an autopsy revealed severe CTE, chronic traumatic encephalopathy, the worst ever seen in a player his age. This opened new conversations about head trauma, brain health, and how it could affect judgment and behavior. Still, it left many wondering, was it the hits, the background, or a combination of both? Aaron Hernandez's story isn't just about a fall from grace, it's about missed warnings, a system that looked the other way, and a life that spiraled into violence. And for the NFL, it became a permanent stain, proof that talent alone can't cover up the truth. And while Hernandez's case shocked the world with its violence, the next player's fall wasn't about murder. It was about betrayal, regret, and a second chance that almost no one saw coming. Michael Vick. Vick wasn't just a quarterback, he was a revolution. In 2001, the Atlanta Falcons made him the first overall pick, the first black quarterback ever taken at number 1. He wasn't just fast, he was lightning in cleats. With a cannon for an arm and 4.25 speed, Vick redefined what a quarterback could be. He wasn't supposed to play the position, not the way they wanted it played, but Vick didn't care. He juked all pros out of their cleats, reversed field like a video game glitch, and carved up defenses in ways we'd never seen before. For a moment, it felt like Vick was going to be the future of football. And then, it all collapsed. In 2007, federal investigators uncovered a brutal dogfighting ring operating out of Vick's Virginia property. The details were beyond disturbing. Electrocuted dogs, animals drowned and tortured, all for sport. Vick was at the center of it. Not just complicit, responsible. The fallout was immediate. Nike dropped him. The Falcons cut him. The NFL suspended him indefinitely. And Vick, the most electric player of a generation, was now a felon. He served 21 months in federal prison, followed by 2 months of home confinement. When he got out, the football world had moved on. Most believed his career was over, that he'd be a cautionary tale of wasted potential. But in Philadelphia, Andy Reid gave him a second chance. And in 2010, Vick gave us a second act no one saw coming. He wasn't just good, he was MVP caliber. 30 total touchdowns. Over 3,000 yards passing. The Eagles went 10-6 and made the playoffs. Vick was named Comeback Player of the Year. But no matter how many yards he ran for or touchdowns he threw, the shadow of his crimes never fully faded. He became an activist, working with the Humane Society, visiting schools, speaking out against animal cruelty. He took accountability. He tried to rebuild. And yet, for many, it wasn't enough. For some, it never will be. Michael Vick remains one of the most complex, polarizing, and fascinating figures in NFL history. A man who had it all, lost it all, and fought like hell to earn back even a piece of it. Some stories get a second chapter. The next one never got past the first page. Henry Ruggs III. Henry Ruggs III had blinding speed. That's what made him a first-round pick by the Las Vegas Raiders in 2020. He ran a 4.27 at the Combine, the fastest time in the draft. But for the Raiders, it wasn't just a stat, it was a philosophy. They believed in speed, and Ruggs was their future. He was a product of Alabama's machine, polished, proven, and filled with upside. By 2021, Ruggs was starting to put it together. The flashes were real, the separation, the deep balls. He looked like a potential star. And then, it all stopped. November 2nd, 2021. Ruggs was driving his Corvette through Las Vegas, 156 miles per hour. His blood alcohol level, twice the legal limit. He slammed into a Toyota RAV4, driven by 23-year-old Tina Tintor. The car burst into flames. Tina and her dog were trapped inside. They didn't survive. Ruggs was arrested and charged with DUI resulting in death, a felony carrying up to 50 years in prison. The Raiders released him the same day. And just like that, his career was over. This wasn't a scandal. It wasn't a PR crisis. It was a tragedy. A life was lost. A future erased. A city traumatized. And the NFL community, once again, was left asking how it could happen. Since then, Ruggs has stayed quiet, awaiting legal consequences. He's not a villain in a narrative. He's a living consequence of a single, catastrophic decision. One night, one drink, one decision, and everything was gone. Ray Rice. By 2014, Ray Rice had built something rare, a successful NFL career and goodwill off the field. He was a 3-time Pro Bowler, a Super Bowl champion, and a respected figure in Baltimore. Then the elevator video came out. The footage from an Atlantic City hotel showed Rice punching his fiancée, Janae Palmer, knocking her unconscious. He dragged her limp body out of the elevator like luggage. It was horrifying. It was undeniable. It was on TMZ. And the NFL's initial response? A 2-game suspension. Fans, journalists, politicians. Everyone asked the same question. How is this all he gets? The backlash was instant. The Ravens released him. The NFL extended the suspension indefinitely. Rice was later reinstated, but no team ever signed him again. He was 27. His career was over. The fallout from the Ray Rice case forced the NFL to finally confront its long-standing failures around domestic violence. The league overhauled its personal conduct policy, introduced mandatory suspensions, and invested in public awareness campaigns. But for many, it felt like trying to fix the cracks after the dam already broke. To his credit, Rice didn't disappear. He's become an advocate, speaking at high schools, working on education efforts. But the damage to victims, to fans, to his legacy can't be undone. Some mistakes get second chances, some don't. Ray Carruth. Though technically before the 2000s, Ray Carruth's case still casts a long shadow over the modern NFL. Drafted in 1997 by the Carolina Panthers, Carruth was a first-round wide receiver with blazing speed and star potential. But in 1999, Carruth orchestrated the murder of his pregnant girlfriend, Sharika Adams, hiring a hitman to kill her so he wouldn't have to pay child support. She was shot 4 times, but managed to call 911 and name him. She later died, but their baby, Chancellor Lee Adams, survived, born with cerebral palsy due to lack of oxygen. Carruth fled, hiding in the trunk of a car with cash, water, and candy bars. He was caught, convicted of conspiracy to commit murder, and sentenced to 18 years and 11 months. Released in 2018, Carruth expressed regret, but few were ready to forgive. His son, raised by Cherika's mother, became a symbol of strength and survival. Carruth's case was a wake-up call. It showed just how deep criminal behavior could run, and how far the NFL needed to go in protecting the people around its stars. Dante Stallworth. By 2009, Dante Stallworth had built what many players spend their whole careers chasing: stability. He wasn't a superstar. He wasn't going to make the Hall of Fame. But for nearly a decade, he had carved out a reputation as a dependable, speedy, and respected wide receiver. A first-round pick in 2002 by the New Orleans Saints, Stallworth bounced between teams: the Eagles, the Patriots, the Browns, always finding a way to contribute. He was fast, smart, and well-liked in locker rooms, quietly consistent. Until one morning changed everything. March 14th, 2009, Miami, Florida. Just after dawn, Stallworth was driving home after a night out. It was then that he struck and killed a pedestrian, Mario Reyes, a 59-year-old construction worker who was crossing the street to catch a bus. Reyes wasn't in a crosswalk, but Stallworth was driving under the influence. His blood alcohol level was above the legal limit. There was no escaping the outcome. A man was dead. To Stallworth's credit, he did everything right after doing everything wrong. He stopped immediately. He cooperated fully with police. He expressed genuine remorse, both publicly and privately. And he reached a financial settlement with Reyes's family, who later said they believed Stallworth was truly sorry. But the legal outcome sparked a wave of outrage. 24 days in jail. That was it. Stallworth pled guilty to DUI manslaughter, a felony that carries a potential 15-year sentence in Florida. But he served less than a month behind bars. To many, it felt like an injustice. Another example of wealth and status softening accountability. The NFL handed down a 1-year suspension, effectively wiping out Stallworth's 2009 season. And when he came back in 2010, he wasn't the same. He bounced between a few more teams, the Ravens, the Redskins, but he never found traction again. On the field, his speed was gone. Off the field, he was even more invisible. And maybe that was by design. Stallworth didn't fight the public. He didn't chase a comeback documentary. He didn't post workout videos or ask for sympathy. He disappeared. He gave up the spotlight, and over time took a quieter path, writing, reflecting, and occasionally commenting on policy and national security issues. He even worked briefly as a journalist. But when his name is mentioned now, it's almost always followed by a footnote. A tragic decision that changed 2 lives forever. Unlike other players whose scandals exploded across the headlines, Stallworth's story sank beneath the surface. There was no viral video, no TMZ tape, just a single, fatal moment. And a man who never ran from it, but could never outrun it either. In the ever-growing conversation about NFL accountability, Stallworth's case remains one of the most uncomfortable. There were no excuses. There was no redemption arc. Just a sobering reminder that even the quiet ones can do irreversible harm. And while Stallworth faded with grace, almost too quietly to notice, the next name in this saga couldn't avoid the spotlight. Because when the spotlight found him, he lit the match himself. Aldon Smith. When Aldon Smith entered the league in 2011 with the San Francisco 49ers, he looked unstoppable. By his second season, he had racked up 19.5 sacks and was an All-Pro at just 23 years old. Fast, powerful, and freakishly athletic, he was supposed to be the next great pass rusher. Instead, his name became synonymous with self-destruction. Smith's problems started almost immediately. A DUI arrest in 2012, followed by gun possession charges after a house party turned violent. In 2013, he entered rehab after a second DUI and voluntarily stepped away from the game. He returned later that season, but the spiral didn't stop. Between 2014 and 2021, Smith was arrested multiple times. Hit and run, domestic violence, public intoxication, and even a bomb threat at an airport. The league suspended him repeatedly, and every comeback attempt ended the same way, with handcuffs. By the time he got one last shot with the Dallas Cowboys in 2020, fans wanted to believe, he showed flashes of his old self, but it didn't last. Another arrest. Another fall. Aldon Smith isn't just a cautionary tale. He's what happens when talent meets turmoil, and no one wins. But while Smith struggled with chaos, the next name faced a tragedy far more personal. It wasn't a stranger who died. It was his best friend, Josh Brent. Josh Brent wasn't a star. A 7th-round pick by the Dallas Cowboys. He was a backup defensive tackle. Big, strong, and respected by teammates. One of those teammates was Jerry Brown Jr., a friend since college, and his roommate in Dallas. But in 2012, one night changed both of their lives forever. After partying at a Dallas nightclub, Brent drove Brown home, but he was intoxicated. He lost control of his vehicle and crashed, killing Jerry Brown on impact. Brent's blood alcohol level was more than twice the legal limit. He was arrested and later convicted of intoxication manslaughter. Though he served only 180 days in jail as part of a plea deal, he never returned to his former life. He tried a brief comeback with the Cowboys, but retired shortly after. What made Brent's case unique was his emotional accountability. He wept publicly, supported Brown's family, and later joined the Cowboys staff in player development, warning others not to make the same mistake. The tragedy still hangs over the franchise. A young life lost, a career derailed, a friendship broken forever. And if Brent's story is about remorse, the next one is about recklessness, and how even a gun in your own pocket can ruin it all. Plaxico Burress. Plaxico Burress was on top of the world. In 2008, he caught the game-winning touchdown in Super Bowl 42, helping the New York Giants stun the undefeated New England Patriots. He had size, hands, swagger, and the respect of the league. Then, in one strange and preventable moment, it all fell apart. In November 2008, Burress went to a Manhattan nightclub with an unlicensed firearm tucked into his waistband. The gun slipped, and he accidentally shot himself in the leg. Nobody else was hurt, but the legal consequences were immediate. New York's strict gun laws led to Burress being charged with criminal possession of a weapon. He served 20 months in prison, missing 2 full seasons. By the time he returned, he was in his 30s and no longer the same player. It was one of the most bizarre downfalls in NFL history. A moment of ego, paranoia, or just carelessness. Either way, it ended a promising career far too early. If Burress taught us how quickly success can vanish, the next player showed how trouble can follow talent and never fully let go. Adam Pac-Man Jones. Adam Pac-Man Jones might be the most arrested player in modern NFL history. And somehow, he still had a 14-year career. Drafted 6th overall in 2005 by the Tennessee Titans, Jones had elite return skills and shutdown corner potential. But his off-field record was a minefield. Between 2005 and 2019, Jones was arrested or cited in over 10 separate incidents. He was involved in bar fights, strip club shootings, assaults, and even cheating at a casino. His name became a punchline and a headache for any team that tried to believe in him. The NFL suspended him for the entire 2007 season, and his time with the Titans ended in flames. But the Cincinnati Bengals, known for taking chances, signed him, and shockingly, he lasted. He played 8 seasons in Cincinnati, even earning a Pro Bowl nod in 2015. Still, his troubles never fully stopped. As late as 2019, he was arrested for cheating at a casino table and threatening officers. For every highlight, there was another headline. Pac-Man's story is the perfect storm of talent and trouble. And while he managed to outlast his reputation on the field, he never outran it off of it. Lawrence Phillips. Lawrence Phillips might be the most tragic blend of raw talent and personal destruction the NFL has ever seen. A star running back at Nebraska, he was unstoppable in college. Fast, physical, and built to dominate. But his problems started before he ever stepped on an NFL field. Even during his time at Nebraska, Phillips was arrested for assaulting his girlfriend, dragging her down a flight of stairs by her hair. Yet he kept playing. The St. Louis Rams took him 6th overall in 1996, hoping he'd mature. He didn't. His time with the Rams was short and filled with poor performances and more off-field issues. The Miami Dolphins gave him a shot. He blew that too, getting released after assaulting a teammate in practice. What followed was a steady descent. More arrests, mostly for domestic violence and assault. Phillips was eventually convicted in 2009 of multiple charges and sentenced to over 30 years in prison. But it didn't end there. In 2015, while incarcerated, Phillips was charged with murdering his cellmate. Just months later, he was found dead in his cell. Officials ruled it a suicide. Phillips' story is more than a fall from grace. It's a horrifying example of what happens when red flags are ignored, when a system rewards talent and overlooks violence. He had all the tools to be great, but he never had the control to use them the right way. And if Phillips' life was a tragedy fueled by rage, the next name fell apart in public because of something often overlooked: mental illness. Titus Young. Titus Young had all the signs of a breakout star. A second-round pick by the Detroit Lions in 2011, he brought speed and swagger to their offense. He scored touchdowns, made defenders miss, and looked like a future top target for Matthew Stafford. But behind the scenes, things unraveled quickly. In 2013, Young was arrested 4 times in 5 days. The charges were a strange mix: burglary, assault, resisting arrest. None of it made sense. It became clear this wasn't just about behavior. Something deeper was wrong. Eventually, Young was diagnosed with bipolar disorder and entered psychiatric care. Even with treatment, his legal troubles continued. He was arrested over 20 times, often for bizarre incidents like climbing into strangers' homes or fighting police officers. His family begged for help. His father spoke openly about his son's condition, trying to raise awareness instead of hiding it. Young's NFL career ended almost before it started. He played only 2 seasons and never returned. His story sparked rare conversations about mental health in pro sports and what happens when a player's mind becomes their worst opponent. While Young's crimes weren't the most violent, his downfall might be one of the most heartbreaking. And yet, it still pales in comparison to the next name, a man whose legacy was completely wiped away by one of the darkest cases the NFL has ever seen. Darren Sharper. Darren Sharper was once a name spoken with admiration. A 5-time Pro Bowler, Super Bowl champion, and future Hall of Fame contender, Sharper played for the Packers, Vikings, and Saints. He was smart, fast, and always around the ball, a natural leader. But in 2014, the truth began to surface, and it was horrific. Sharper was arrested and later convicted of drugging and raping multiple women in several states, often on the same night as high-profile NFL events. Investigations uncovered a pattern. He'd meet women at bars, spike their drinks, and assault them while they were unconscious. He used his fame to gain trust, then betrayed it in the worst way. Ultimately, he pleaded guilty in multiple jurisdictions and was sentenced to 18 years in federal prison. His crimes spanned cities, teams, and years. He became a predator hiding in plain sight. Sharper's name was quickly removed from Hall of Fame consideration, and he's now remembered not for his stats, but for the suffering he caused. It was one of the most chilling revelations in NFL history. And just when the league thought it had seen the worst, the next tragedy unfolded. Not in court, but on a team's doorstep. Jovan Belcher. In 2012, Jovan Belcher was a starting linebacker for the Kansas City Chiefs. He was 25, reliable on the field, and described by coaches as a smart, steady presence. But on a cold December morning, everything shattered. Belcher shot and killed his girlfriend, Cassandra Perkins, the mother of his 3-month-old daughter, in their home. Then he drove to the Chiefs' team facility, confronted head coach Romeo Crennel and GM Scott Pioli, and took his own life in front of them. The incident stunned the league. Belcher left behind a daughter and a wave of trauma that stretched from his family to his team and beyond. It raised serious questions about mental health, about CTE, and about how well the league supports its players off the field. Belcher had shown no major signs of trouble, or if he had, they were missed. Teammates said he seemed quiet, maybe stressed, but nothing that pointed to something this violent. The Chiefs played their next game as scheduled, but nothing felt normal again. His story wasn't about a criminal act followed by a trial. It was a snap, a moment that couldn't be undone. And it forced the NFL to look hard at what happens behind the helmets. From sudden violence to slow unraveling. The next player's downfall came after his career had barely even started. Trevone Boykin. Trevone Boykin was supposed to be a steal. After a dynamic college career at TCU, he went undrafted in 2016, but quickly signed with the Seattle Seahawks. As Russell Wilson's backup, he had the arm, the legs, and the upside to be more than a clipboard holder. But legal trouble found him early and never let go. Boykin was first arrested for assaulting a police officer before a college bowl game. Then came multiple domestic violence charges, including allegations from his longtime girlfriend that he choked and broke her jaw. The injuries were graphic, the accusations undeniable. The Seahawks released him in 2018. No team called again. He was later sentenced to 3 years in prison after pleading guilty to aggravated assault. Boykin's fall was quick, brutal, and final. He never got a real chance to prove himself in the league, but that was his own doing. The story of Trevone Boykin is short, but the lesson is lasting. No matter how much talent you have, violence off the field will always erase it. And now we close with a final reflection. Not on one player, but on the pattern that links them all. The broken shield. These stories aren't just headlines. They're lives, ruined, taken, or forever changed. From Aaron Hernandez to Henry Ruggs, from Michael Vick to Darren Sharper, the NFL has seen what happens when power, fame, and poor decisions collide. For too long, the league gave second chances based on talent. It looked the other way, but eventually the shield cracked, and fans saw what was behind it. These weren't isolated incidents. They were warnings, some ignored until it was too late. In recent years, the NFL has changed. Policies have gotten stricter. Off-field behavior is watched more closely. But still, questions remain. How do we judge greatness when it's paired with violence? Can redemption ever balance the pain left behind? There's no easy answer. Just stories. Some horrifying, some heartbreaking, all unforgettable. And in the end, these aren't just criminal records. They're reminders of the cost of ignoring the signs, of protecting talent at all costs, and of the human lives lost in the process. These players had everything, until one decision changed everything. Some found redemption, others never got a second chance. If this video gave you a new perspective, hit that like button, subscribe for more breakdowns, and let us know which story hit hardest. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.